Honestly, if the world was coming to an end, my goals would also be to find pizza, smell books, and pet a cat. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today our movie in the middle is A Quiet Place Day 1. A Quiet Place Day 1 is the prequel that shows how the silent apocalypse all started, following a woman dying of cancer as she makes her way through New York City to safety and closure. It stars Lupita Nyong'o, Joseph Quinn, Alex Wolff, and Djimon Hounsou. Look, posters, we're getting there. Honestly, I'm just happy to finally see this movie because I feel like I saw this trailer about 10,000 times. So I'm really happy that it is just finally out. So this one was actually not directed or written by John Krasinski like the first two were. It is actually written and directed by Michael Sarnoski, who also did the Nicolas Cage movie Pig. I was a little bit disappointed to hear that John Krasinski wasn't going to be coming back for it, but honestly, I don't think I would have known much of a difference. This movie was very well done. Starting off with the highs, Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn absolutely kill the chemistry in this movie. These movies, this franchise, has always been about the humanity and obviously the quiet moments in the midst of all of this tragedy and horrific events, and this one does that just as well again. Even though we're following completely different characters from the first two, we once again very immediately feel empathy for these characters, and they create a relationship that is based off of their own empathy, bonding over grief, and a lot of trust built into this very quickly chaotic day. And so they did just such a good job with that, and there was a moment in this movie, my favorite moment of the whole movie, that just got me. Honestly, not even because it was sad or really that emotional. It was just so happy and wholesome. It was my favorite scene of the whole movie. I don't know. I normally don't cry at happy moments, but it almost got me. I don't know why, but it did. Lupita Nyong'o always has authority in every role that she's in, and she is obviously no stranger to horror movies, being in Us not only once but twice. But she is a stranger to overcoming her own fears, which she actually had to do for this movie, and I commend her for that because of all things, and people have fears of all things, she had a gigantic fear of cats. No, not that one, but I could understand if she did. And she actually had to go through therapy and everything, confronting it to do this role. And I really commend her for that because the cat is a huge part of this movie. So good on her. Again, just committing to the role. And then Joseph Quinn, God love this man. Obviously, he is one of the hot new young actors after his role as Eddie in Stranger Things. And boy, this man can just make you love about any character that he will play. Somebody said when I was leaving the theater, I overheard them say that, especially in these movies, you have to do a lot of acting with your facial expressions, with your body language, eyes, everything. And his eyes specifically, like his facial expressions, he's just so good at it, at playing these characters that within seconds, you're like, I feel for you, man, He's really, really good at that. And this type of acting that you have to do in these movies extends to all of them, including Alex Wolff as well, who did a really, really great job. I just like him more in everything that I see him in successively. Of course, he is also not a stranger. Horror movies being in things like Hereditary and Old. And man, can this man just not have a good time in any movie that he's in? They also just did a really good job generally with the writing in terms of this reality that you have as a character, any of these characters, just seeing it change on a dime. The harsh reality that, your life as you know it is over. And all of, the really complex emotions that come from that and everything that just builds up throughout the entire day as you're realizing, oh shit, this is all, the world has changed. I think they did a really good job with that because it is very different from the other two in terms of it's not an already established thing that's been happening for over a year, characters who know how to deal with this and what they're dealing with. It's very in the moment, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute, but I think they did a really good job with that aspect as well. And of course, the suspense. These movies don't necessarily scare me, but they have a lot of tension, suspense, moments where you're holding your breath and, plugging your ears because something might come out. And I think they did a really good job with that once again. And of course, directorially, John Krasinski with the other two just had a lot of really clever moments implying certain things and not like, spoon feeding it to the audience. And I think that they did that once again. Michael Sarnoski did that once again in this movie, just having a lot of very clever things happen, or, just being able to tell the story visually where you just feel it rather than it being told to you. I had one other high on here. Oh. There's a cat. His name's Frodo. I have, I guess, what is pretty much a huge middle of the movie, because there's a lot on either side that I was thinking about during the movie. And that really comes down to the scale and the time that the movie takes place in. What I mean by this is that the first two, again, they follow the same family for both of them. It's a little bit more intimate, it's smaller scaled, and it's about these people who already know what's been going on, and part of the fun is that we get to see all these self-defense tricks and all of these like tactics that they've come up with to build this world. It's kind of interesting to see what they do. In this one, because it's kind of just that initial moment of chaos and figuring it out for the first time, it can feel a little bit generic or be a little bit more underwhelming because it just doesn't feel as original at points. I think the originality and the really good parts of this movie come in the small moments, but in general, the big stuff, while it was very well done, we've seen things like this akin to Cloverfield or 28 Weeks Later, where it's a huge city being attacked by aliens. So because we're not able to have those little details, those nuances that make this world specific because it hasn't been established yet, it can feel a little bit like we've seen this before. But again, I think that in and of itself is also pretty cool, that we get to see this same world, but then we get to see, sort of the beginning of it and the more chaotic side of it rather than the quieter parts of it. Obviously, this movie has a lot of quiet moments, but we get to see the huge aspects of it and the inception of this huge disaster, this chaos that goes on. That being said, the other part to this that is like the low side of the middle is that because that is the case, because that was what was marketed and we're going to get to see this big event, I was a little underwhelmed at how little of that was actually in the movie. Because obviously, being a quiet place, we want quiet moments, and obviously we get a lot of those. But the actual chaos, the insanity of all of the creatures coming down for the first time, and like people fighting in the streets and all of this stuff, I thought we were going to get more of that, and it actually did not take up a big chunk of the movie, if I'm being quite honest. So overall, I really did like A Quiet Place Day One. It's kind of like Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. It has its place in this trilogy. I like the other ones a little bit more just because I like that family. I like some of the other tactics that we get to see in those movies. But this one, if you go into it knowing it's slightly different because we don't get to see those things just yet, and this is all about the in-the-moment chaos of this start, you're probably going to be a little bit more satisfied with what you get, knowing that you're getting into that. But again, even aside from that, they still make the humanity, the emotion, the people, the core of this movie, which is what The Quiet Place has always been about. It's been about family. And this one's a found family, which is actually pretty cool. And again, there's a cat. So I'm going to give A Quiet Place Day One a 3 out of 4. Well, guys, let me know what you thought of A Quiet Place Day One. Where does it rank among the others for you? And do you think that they're going to do anything more with this? Because I've been wondering, but at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if they made a spin-off TV show or something. It seems to be the thing that they do now. So let me know all your thoughts on that. And as always, keep your hopes high, your stress low, and keep quiet. I'll see you guys later.